Okay, hi, this is our new wood burning stove that we've had installed at our Woof HQ here in Axminster. This is a Villager Esprit 8 kilowatt stove, and you can see that the flue pipe and everything there is nice and properly installed by some Heatas installers. And today what we're really looking to do is to demonstrate and show how a stove works and how easy it is to make it work, how easy it is to make it last a long time and heat up a space, even a big space like this in a warehouse, and also just some of the very basic operations with the stove and the air controls that you get. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find some bits and pieces to light it up with. Obviously we've got all the bits and pieces here. Nice lot of kindling, very nice, very dry kindling wood, which is made of birch. Going to need some matches, maybe some firelighters. Got a nice natural firelighter here, and I've also got some very clean offcuts from a very well-known furniture manufacturer. So this is a multi-fuel stove. Has a primary air supply at the bottom, secondary air at the top, and you control the air. You can open those air vents by opening and closing these parts on the door and the body of the stove. And you can see that, I don't know whether you can see that, it's a slider that opens and closes the top and the bottom. And this is a multi-fuel stove, I don't know whether you can see inside there, that has some fire bars with a riddling grate to riddle the ash through. But in a wood burning stove, when you just want to burn some wood, it works just as well to have a nice little bit of ash in the bottom of the stove. Just shut the door again. So to start a fire, to start any fire, what you need most of all is some really dry wood. And this is our kindling. It's nice, proper, chunky kindling. It's made of birch wood, which is high calorific value. And this kindling will light a fire very easily, as you'll see in a minute, and get it really hot, and it will burn clean and very bright. So what I'm going to do, the best way to light a very simple fire is to put a few pieces of kindling to make a bed for the firelighter in the bottom. Take a firelighter, one like this will do it nicely. This is a nice natural piece of wood wool with wax in it. Put that on the kindling so you can see it, and then simply light that. You can see how easily these little natural firelighters light. This is a firelighter that we get from France, it's from Brittany. That's all completely natural. I'm then going to put some other bits of kindling just around my firelighter. I'm going to wait for that to take hold. I'm going to shut the door, and I'm going to leave the air vents open at the bottom and open at the top. Okay, so once again, this stove, this is a multi-fuel stove, and what's important to understand about a multi-fuel stove is that if you just want to burn wood, once the wood is alight and it's burning well, then you close what's called the primary air supply. So anything where you've got air coming out the bottom of the stove, there's lots of different designs of stoves, but in principle they all work the same way. you should close tight the air supply at the bottom, which is called the primary air supply. The air at the top is generally referred to as the secondary air supply, and it's this supply that you use when you're burning wood, and wood alone, because a wood fire likes to have the air coming over the top of it. If, however, you're going to burn coal, you do the opposite. So if you're burning coal, you would burn with the air going into the bottom there, through, it goes up through the grate in the fire and out, and obviously up through the chimney, and you then don't need the secondary air supply. And what you'll notice with a stove is like this, is that underneath the grate bars you've got a little pan to collect all the ash, and that's particularly useful when you're burning coal. And you can see that we've got this kindling burning, beginning to burn quite nicely now. And we're just going to be burning wood fire today, so we're not going to worry about the coal so much. But what's very good is when you're first lighting a wood fire, is to be able to open the primary air supply so that you can get a good blast of air up through and get it going. And the really important thing is that you get the stove really, really, really hot to start with. And don't underestimate how hot you need to get the stove before things like the air wash will work properly. And you can see on here, I've got a nice little flue thermometer on the top here. The stove's just lit, so the needle is only on 0, but what we're aiming to do is get the needle up to about 150, 200 here, which you will see later as it fires more, as it gets hotter. So again, just lit up, we've got a nice body of kindling in there, and that's slowly warming up the whole of this flue, which goes right 4 metres through our building. What I need now is some smaller bits of wood that are very dry, a bit bigger than kindling, that again will just light and make it nice and hot and burn easily. What we're not really looking to do is to put any really large chunky logs on straight away, because they will just smoulder and produce smoke. So we need small wood, we need kindling and then smaller bits of wood, because we're trying to heat the flue up and get it hot. And until your flue on your stove is hot, your stove won't operate correctly, and that's when you start to get things like blackening of the glass and an inefficiency and a lack of heat. So I'm just going to put some more offcuts, these offcuts from the furniture industry, and add them into my stove. And once I close the door again, as it burns, we'll see how the temperature increases on the flue thermometer. And so I would expect normally, on a clear day, just to leave the primary air control open, secondary air control open, for about 20 minutes. Until all this wood is burning really quite fiercely and made my flue nice and hot. And that, as I say, is the key to making your stove operate correctly.